I was only 6 years old, curled up by the stone lion at the back door of the Xiao residence. The snow was relentless. My eyes were covered with a black cloth, but I could feel the cold biting into my thin, mismatched clothes. My face was gaunt, all sharp angles and shivering skin. The back door creaked open. Thud! Something heavy hit the snow. It was a stiff body. Zhao Qing, a servant in a thick coat, looked at me with a flicker of pity. He dropped 4 strings of coins, but kept the rest hidden in his sleeve. I stood up, shaking the snow off my shoulders. I tried to smile, my face blue from the cold. I asked if it was Brother Qing and if he had thrown out the leftovers. I reached out, my hands red and raw, searching the snow. My fingers didn't find food. They found ice-cold flesh. My heart stopped. I knelt in the snow, my hands trembling as I traced the face. I felt the long scar on the chin. I knew that scar. My uncle had given it to her 2 years ago after losing at gambling. My sister was dead. The smile vanished from my face. Tears carved tracks through the frost on my cheeks. I took off my only tattered hemp shirt and wrapped it around her. My own body was a map of bruises and scars, but I didn't care. I stroked her hair with my frostbitten hands. Maybe it was better this way, I whispered. At least she was free. I turned toward the door. I told him he didn't give me enough money. Zhao Qing's pity vanished instantly. He told me to take the 4 strings and get lost. He turned to close the door, but I didn't think. I lunged forward and grabbed his hand. I demanded he give me what belonged to her. He snarled, grabbed my hair, and threw me down the stone steps. My body hit the frozen ground hard. He told me to get lost with the corpse. But I wasn't done. I crawled back and grabbed the hem of his robe. I told him it was her life money. He raised a fist to strike me, but then he looked into my eyes. Even behind the black cloth, my eyes were bloodshot and pale. He felt like I was staring right through his soul. A chill ran down his spine. He looked at my dead sister, sighed, and finally shoved the rest of the coins into my hand. The door slammed shut. I heard a young voice inside, Master Yuan Ling, calling him to feed the birds. I sat on those steps for a long time, staring at nothing. Then, I hauled my sister's stiff body onto my back. Every step in the snow sounded like a groan. I didn't know an old man in a gray robe was watching me from a nearby restaurant. He was drinking warm wine, his eyes sharp and clear. He whispered to himself that he couldn't believe the vessel he had sought for centuries was a little blind boy. He decided it must be destiny. The wind felt like knives, but I kept moving. I stopped at a clinic. It was too late for my sister, but I needed medicine for my mother. Then I went to a small shop with white funeral banners. When I came out, I carried a jar wrapped in my sister's pink clothes. Li Tsuiwei was gone. On the way back, I found 2 frozen buns in the snow. They were hard as bricks, but I actually smiled. I was starving. The old man following me sensed something in the air. He realized the protector mage of Northern Liang was coming for him because he had recently destroyed a sect. He vanished in a flash, appearing miles away in a pavilion where a high-ranking cultivator was waiting for him with tea. Meanwhile, I reached the edge of the city. I stood before a broken courtyard with a door that wouldn't even close. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. The house was pitch black. There was nothing inside but cold walls and the smell of poverty. The window paper was full of holes, letting the freezing wind whistle through the room. I couldn't afford to fix it. On the cold earthen bed, a dark shadow shifted slightly. A weak, gentle voice drifted toward me. Guanxi, you're back? It was my mother, Song Wanro. She was incredibly frail. As she sat up, the moonlight hit her face. Her cheeks were sunken and her skin looked like parchment, but her eyes were still full of warmth when she looked at me. She glanced around the dark room, searching for someone else. Where's Tsuiwei? She asked softly. I was fumbling in a drawer for a candle, but my body went stiff. My hand brushed against the cold, lonely clay jar I had placed on the floor. I turned my head away, unable to look her in the eye. My throat felt like it was full of sand. Tsuiwei is dead, I said. The Xiao family paid 10 strings of copper coins. I have the money. I'll hide it. We're going to use it to get you better, Mother. I pulled the frozen buns from my shirt. They had thawed a little against my skin. I handed them to her and started heading for the kitchen to brew the herbs I'd bought. My voice was a raspy whisper. I told her I was going to make her medicine. But Mother reached out and caught my hand. She pressed the buns back into my palm. "I'm not hungry," she said, her voice trembling as she fought back tears. "You eat, Guanxi." Her dry, thin hair covered most of her face, but I heard it. The sound of her tears hitting the straw mat. We were drowning in grief, but the world wasn't done with us yet. Bang! The door was kicked open. A blast of icy air surged in, making me shiver. I didn't know if it was the cold or the fear. A man stomped inside. It was my distant uncle, Li Dashin. He was a short, ugly man with a face that promised violence. He had a hooked nose and triangular eyes that always seemed to be looking for something to steal. "Where's the damn money?" he roared before he was even fully inside. I kept my head down, my body shaking. I clutched the herbs and stood frozen. But Li Dashin's eyes landed on my face. He saw my eyes, the ones I usually kept covered. His face darkened. Slap. The blow sent me spinning to the ground. "Damn it," he cursed. "How many times have I told you to cover those eyes? You're a jinx. Every time I see them, I lose money at the tables. I'm going to gouge them out one of these days." He saw the herbs scattered on the floor, and his rage boiled over. He started kicking me, his heavy boots thudding into my ribs. "Did you spend the money on this trash? Did you? Did you?" I curled into a ball, shielding my head. I'd been through this 1,000 times. Ever since we came to live with him 3 years ago, life had been a living hell. I crawled on the floor, trying to protect the herbs with my body. My mother scrambled off the bed. She stumbled toward us, trying to push him away. "Stop it," she cried. "Don't hit the boy." Li Dashin didn't even hesitate. He grabbed a wooden board and smashed it over her head. She was a sick woman, a burden, he shouted. Why waste money on her? She should have died long ago. I should have sent her to the Xiao house instead. At least then I'd get more payout money when she kicked the bucket. Blood started trickling down my mother's forehead. Even then, she crawled over me, trying to shield me with her frail body. She kept begging him to stop. Then, I felt something warm and sticky on my face. Blood. Her blood. Something inside me snapped. The fear vanished, replaced by a cold, jagged fury. I struggled out of my mother's arms. I knew this kitchen by heart. My hand found the heavy kitchen knife on the counter. I gripped the handle and screamed at the man who had ruined our lives. "Shut up," I yelled. "If it wasn't for your drinking and gambling, we wouldn't be like this. My mother wouldn't be sick. My sister wouldn't have been sold to work herself to death. You're the one who deserves to die, Li Dashin." I let out years of suppressed rage. Li Dashin smelled of cheap wine. His expression turned vicious. "If I hadn't given you scraps, you'd both be dead in a ditch." He spat. "Now you're pulling a knife on me." He looked around for a weapon. I listened to the sound of his breathing, my ears twitching. I lunged. The moonlight caught the blade of the knife as I swung. Panicked, Li Dashin grabbed the first thing he could reach and threw it at me. It was the clay jar. I was thin, but I was fast. I heard the weight of the object moving through the air and ducked. The jar smashed against the floor at my feet. The sound of shattering clay was followed by the metallic clatter of coins. I froze. My heart stopped. I knew what was in that jar. My sister's ashes. The copper coins glinted in the moonlight, scattered among the remains of my sister. Li Dashin let out a manic laugh. 10 strings. He cheered, his eyes wide with greed. I can win it all back now. I'll win everything with this. I stood there, paralyzed. My mind flashed through every hungry night and every beating. I never knew my father. He died in the famine. This man was our only family, and he was a monster. He had taken everything. When my mother was first getting sick, he took the medicine money to the gambling den. I remembered her begging him, and him screaming that he was on a hot streak. He had sold my sister. He had turned me into a beggar. And now, he was standing over my sister's ashes, laughing about his next bet. I looked at my mother. She saw me raise the knife. She saw the look in my eyes. She didn't say a word. She didn't try to stop me. She just watched as I turned back toward him. My mother had given up on Li Dashin long ago. She knew her time was running out, and she couldn't bear the thought of him selling me off for gambling money once she was gone. Maybe this was the only way. The sharp kitchen knife sank into his throat with a wet thud. I felt a spray of warm liquid hit my face. Li Dashin's eyes bulged with disbelief as he collapsed into a pool of his own blood. My strength vanished instantly, and I slumped to the floor, my legs turning to jelly. My mother, Song Wanrong, looked dizzy. Her body was growing cold, and she knew the end was near. She forced a pale, trembling smile and called out softly, "Guanxi, come here." I rushed to her side, my whole body shaking as I pulled her into my arms. She held me tight, never once glancing at the man dying on the floor. She reached up and covered my eyes with her hand, gently stroking my back. "Don't be afraid, Guanxi. He's gone. It's better this way. Come look at me. Let mother see you one last time." I could feel what was happening. My heart twisted, and tears poured down my face. "Mother, are you leaving me too? What will I do?" Her vision was blurring. She looked out at the wind and snow swirling outside the window. "I wasn't strong enough," she whispered. "I let you suffer. From now on, you must be a man who stands tall. Get married, have a family. I'll be watching you from the sky. You must live well. Go see the rivers, the mountains, the whole world. See it all for me." Suddenly, the hand on my back went limp. I let out a desperate roar. "Mother!" I called her again and again, but there was no answer. I sat there in the silence, staring blankly into the void. I had no mother. I had no family. I was completely alone. I reached out and traced her face, trying to burn every detail of her features into my memory forever. Later that night, I knocked on the door of the shop with the white bells again. The fat owner grumbled as he pulled back the doorboards. When he saw it was me, he snapped, "You again? I told you, 10 coins was a fair price. I'm not cheating you." I stood barefoot in the snow, my head hanging low. My voice was a raspy ghost of itself. "My mother is dead too. Can you help me move her? I can't carry her alone." The owner froze. The anger vanished from his face, replaced by a look of deep pain. He pulled me inside and wrapped me in an old, thick coat. "Warm up first," he said, his voice choking up. "I'll get dressed. You've had a hard life, kid. If you don't mind, you can work for me. I can't pay much, but I won't let you starve." I hadn't cried since the house, but his sudden kindness broke me. I collapsed onto the floor and sobbed. I knelt before his hearth, bowing my head to the flames. "Mother, I will never forget what you did for me. I will live. I promise." High above, a man in gray robes named Su Xian watched me. He sighed, his fingers moving as if calculating my fate. "It is destiny," he whispered. "Even I cannot change what is written." When I finally returned to the ruins of my home through the blizzard, Su Xian was standing outside. I sensed his presence and croaked, "Who are you looking for?" With a flash of light, he produced a heavy cotton coat and draped it over my shoulders. He knelt down, taking my frozen hands into his large, warm ones. He had seen 1,000 tragedies in his long life, but even he was moved by my night of horror. "Child," he said softly, "will you come with me? I will be your grandfather. We'll leave this place." My eyes were numb, but I felt a warmth I had never known before. Tears fell again. "Will I have enough to eat?" Su Xian's heart ached. He pulled me into a hug. "More than enough. I'll make sure you're always full and always warm." I nodded. We left 2 graves in the wilderness that day. I buried the 10 strings of coins with my mother's ashes. I only kept 1 single copper coin. I tucked it into my shirt, close to my heart. It was all I had left of them. Time passed. We moved to a village high in the mountains called Fulong Village. One afternoon, I sat cross-legged in the center of a beautiful courtyard. I wore clean white robes, the copper coin hanging from a red string around my neck. Su Xian, my grandfather, sat nearby smoking a pipe. His eyes flickered with a golden light as he watched me. Opening the mind's eye was incredibly difficult. He hoped I could do it. I chanted the mantras he taught me. I let my mind go still. I looked for the dust in the void. I sought the truth beyond sight. My consciousness sank into the world around me. Suddenly, the darkness broke. I saw a heavy white mist. My heart jumped. It was the first time in my life I had ever seen a color. I calmed myself and stepped into the fog. It felt like walking through invisible walls, but I pushed forward. My blood began to boil, and the dust on the ground around me started to vibrate. Su Xian smiled through his pipe smoke. 7 days. It only took me 7 days to reach this point. To him, I was a natural monster of talent. A loud crack echoed in my brain. The mist shattered. My breath leveled out, and a look of shock crossed my face. I could see. Everything was colorless, shades of gray and white. but I could see the world as clearly as if I had real eyes. Su Xian nodded to himself. It will do until your spiritual sea is formed. He stood up, hands behind his back. You can see now? I was trembling with excitement, my eyes welling up as I nodded frantically. Even without color, it was a miracle. He patted my shoulder and laughed. Don't worry. Once you develop your divine sense, you'll see all the colors of the world. My grandfather, Su Xian, warned me right away. Opening the mind's eye was a huge step, but I couldn't overdo it. Using it too much would drain my essence and spirit. He beckoned me over, saying he had something prepared for me. I nodded, engraving his words into my heart. I stood there for a long time, just soaking in the new world. I looked at my own hands and feet, then pulled the copper coin from my chest. I held it in my palms, staring at it with wonder. So, this was what a copper coin actually looked like. I followed the old man to the backyard. I saw a wooden barrel filled with pungent medicinal liquid and made a face. Was I soaking in that again? I started to strip off my clothes, since this was a regular routine, but the old man gave me a mysterious smile. He kept walking past the barrel. Not a soak today, he said. Come here. I followed him in silence. Then I saw it. It was a square stone pillar, nearly as tall as I was. Thick hemp ropes were coiled around it. My lip twitched. I looked at the shape of those ropes and felt a sense of dread. Grandpa, I stammered. You don't seriously want me to carry this thing, do you? He didn't say a word. He just stood there, smiling at me. I sighed and stepped up to the pillar. I looped the ropes over my shoulders and threw my weight forward. My back muscles screamed as the stone left the ground. My face turned bright red instantly. Grandpa, this thing has to be at least 500 pounds. I managed to choke out. I'm struggling here. Su Xian just laughed. What's 500 pounds? You're at the peak of body refinement. It's nothing. From today on, you'll carry this while you eat, while you sleep, and while you trek up and down the mountain. I didn't complain further. I just had one question. What about when I'm practicing my punches? Especially then, he replied, turning to leave. You wear it every second, even when you're dreaming. I had no choice but to obey, even if I didn't understand the point of it yet. The old man headed off toward the village entrance to play chess in the sunset. As he walked away, he glanced back at me and muttered to himself that it was all for my own good. The next morning, Su Xian was busy with his own preparations. I spent the early hours gasping for air as I hauled that massive stone pillar up the mountain. Below me, the village was waking up. Smoke drifted from chimneys. Women in floral jackets opened their gates, shouting for their children to come home for breakfast. Hidden in the shadows, a boy named Xiao Beichin was waiting for me. His eyes were full of spite. He hated me because of Meng Wanxiu. She was cold to everyone, but she actually talked to me. In Xiao Beichin's mind, she was his future wife. He couldn't stand that a blind brat, like me, was even in the same league as him. He'd been trying to bully me for years, though I usually ended up giving him a beating. Now that I had my mind's eye, I didn't even need to see him. His breathing was so heavy and ragged it sounded like a bull in my ears. He saw his chance and lunged out, swinging a fist at my head. I didn't even break my stride. I shifted my weight slightly, letting the punch whistle past, and buried my fist into his stomach. Xiao Beichin collapsed, clutching his belly in agony. You bastard, he hissed, voice trembling. Just wait 2 years. I'll get you. I crouched down next to him, a playful smirk on my face. It won't matter how many years pass. You'll never beat me. The other local kids saw me looking their way and turned pale. I have to go home. My mom's calling. They scrambled away. I didn't care about Xiao Beichin anymore. My world was getting bigger than this tiny village. If I really wanted to hurt him, I would have used a weapon. As I walked, my nose twitched. A delicious scent drifted through the air. I leaned over a picket fence and shouted into the yard. Auntie Lee, what's the occasion? I smell stewed chicken. A plump, middle-aged woman pushed open her door, her face lighting up when she saw me. Oh, it's you, Guanxi. Have you eaten? Let me get you something. I stared at her. So, this was what Annie Lee looked like. I rubbed my stomach and acted hungry. I haven't actually. My nose led me right here. I'm trying to dodge my grandpa's bland cooking. She laughed and waved me off. Don't talk about your grandfather like that. I have half a pot left. I'll give you some rice to take back for both of you. Thank you, Auntie. I beamed. With your skills, it's a crime you haven't opened a restaurant down the mountain. She grinned, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes deepening. You always were a sweet talker. Wait right there. A moment later, a young girl stepped out carrying a steaming bowl of chicken. It was Ming Wanshu. She was wearing a light blue dress, her eyes fixed intently on the bowl to make sure she didn't spill a drop of the broth. Li Guanxi, she grumbled. Are you a dog? Every time we make something good, you show up on time. I leaned on the fence, completely mesmerized. She was beautiful. I hadn't realized just how pretty she was until this moment. A smile tugged at my lips. Wanshu, I said softly. I wonder who's going to be lucky enough to marry a great wife like you. Her face turned bright red. She struggled to set the heavy bowl on the fence and rolled her eyes at me before sprinting back toward the house. Then, remembering I was blind, she turned back and shouted, "Stupid blind brat." I burst out laughing. I picked up the bowl and turned to leave, but stopped dead. A man was standing right in front of me. Hello, Uncle Ming," I said awkwardly. Wanshu's father didn't say a word. He just kicked me square in the backside. "Stop teasing my daughter," he joked. "The sex selection is coming up and you're still acting like a hooligan. Get out of here." I grinned and nodded quickly. "Got it. I'll bring you some wine tomorrow, Uncle." I hurried back to our secluded courtyard, navigating the twists and turns until I burst through the door. "Grandpa, I'm back." The old man's eyes lit up the second he smelled the food. He took a long drag of his pipe and smacked his lips. Old Ming's wife really does have the best hands in the village. I went to set the heavy pot down, but my legs buckled. Carrying 500 pounds of stone while holding a bowl of chicken was harder than I thought. I nearly did a faceplant right there on the floor.